NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with MovieMaker Magazine. I'm Tim Molloy, and I'm here with Inbar Horesh with her film Birthright. Let's take a look at a clip.
В пустыне Негев будет испытана еврейская молодежь.
Затемнили то кілька збитили мене.
Ты еще в Израиле, с какими солдатами мутить.
Так, צריך לבחור אחת.
Ты из тебя глазки строишь.
Я ничего не строю.
Так, девочки, брейк.
Зачем ты это делаешь? Не делаю.
So, Inbar, can you just give us a quick synopsis of what this movie is about for people who haven't seen it?
Sure. So it's about a young woman named Natasha from Russia that is joining an organized trip, a heritage trip to visit Israel. She's very excited to connect to her Jewish roots. And when she meets the soldiers that accompanied the trip, she managed to catch the attention of the handsome combat soldier, and then her friends get jealous and things turn ugly.
Now, you being Israeli have never gone on one of these birthright tours, right?
Well, I actually escorted a tour as an Israeli.
As an American, I've only heard my American friends who've gone to Israel talk about them, and they always present it as the most fun thing they've ever done in their life.
It's a lot of fun. It's quite crazy. Yes.
So you studied Arabic in Cairo before you became a filmmaker.
It's true.
And then you worked in human rights. Why did you decide to go in that direction before filmmaking?
Well, I was very involved in political activism, and for me it was my main passion, especially our situation in Israel and Palestine is always very complex, and I was very passionate about working in these directions. But at some point I felt, I guess, burned out because it's an ongoing heart pain to work in this fields in Israel, and I wanted to continue a discourse, and I wanted to continue to try to mirror my reality and to reflect on it. But I looked for a new route, for a new way to do it, and this was the moment that I decided to go for filmmaking.
Did living in Cairo as an Israeli give you a sense of being an outsider that helped inform this film?
No, because I was a tourist. It was like being any other place and being an outsider. Mm-hmm. I feel that as an Israeli, maybe the most common feeling that all Israelis feel in Israel is some sort of being an outsider. Because there is something about the Israeli identity that we like to tell ourselves that we are the most united national state in the world because we are the Jewish state. But actually, when you look into it, and when you look at the details, so we are a very new state that is built from many, many immigrants from many different cultural backgrounds. And if you talk to any Israeli, you will realize that maybe the most common ground between all Israelis is that they all feel outsiders in some way. And there is something very, very delusional about our identity, that we are so united, but actually we are very... the society is diverse. Mm-hmm. And I was looking for a way to approach this sense of a feeling that you don't belong and struggling with being a part of a group, and talk about nationhood through a very certain perspective. So this is why I turned in the end to the birthright trips, because it gave me an opportunity to observe the Israeli identity from the outside, but at the same time to deal with the same sense of looking for belongingness that we all deal with in Israel and outside.
From what I've read, this story reflects the experience of your lead actress, Natasha. I hope I'm saying this right. Maybe you should say it.
Olshanskaya. Natalia Olshanskaya.
Yes, thank you. So her experience is somewhat similar to that of the character in the film?
Yes, it actually all started from me meeting her. We met quite by chance, and we went to grab a coffee, and then she told me it's her birthday. And I was very surprised to realize that, okay, this girl, she doesn't know me and she spends her birthday with me. And then I realized that actually she's very new to Israel and she doesn't know anyone. So from that, we started talking, we spent the day together, we celebrated, and she told me her immigration story. And I was captured to the story because I was amazed to realize that Israel is encouraging immigration of people that don't even consider themselves Jewish. And we have all these ideas about ourselves that we are a Jewish state and we are so united. And for me, it was like discovering a crack that allows me to talk about things that anyways I know that exist, that we are not really so united. And maybe this like search for unity is not allowing us being accepting as we should. And I was very shocked to learn that Israel is encouraging immigration of non-Jews from abroad and giving them citizenships. But at the same time, we know about all the non-Jews living already here in this land, Palestinians, refugees from all over the world that don't manage to get citizenships for the pretext that they're not non-Jewish. So for me, it was an opportunity to ask, is it like, should it really be like this? Are we really so united, even within what we consider the Jewish community? Should we consider maybe it shouldn't be our main value as a society?
I mean, obviously we've never met, but it seems like you have kind of an emphasis on shared humanity over a shared nation. I mean, the fact that you grew up in Israel and decided to learn Arabic, I don't think everyone does that.
For sure not. It's very rare.
Yeah. So what made you want to do that? And what made you want to make films about people who are from outside of Israel and don't fit the mold?
I guess the simple answer is that I always felt like I am getting an image of our reality that is not complete. Mm-hmm. Some things never fell in place for me. I grew up in Israel and I would always ask the adults surrounding me, why are we in this conflict? Why do people hate us so much? And I would never get satisfying answers, never. And I just remember growing up with this feeling that I don't understand what's going on. And then really the first thing that I did when I finished high school was to start researching. And this research led me to decide not to join the IDF, the Israeli army, and then later on really to focus on studying Arabic, because I feel that the language is a door. And once I learned the language, I could really access a whole new world that is completely surrounding us in Israel. And there is something very absurd in like being this island in the center of the Middle East and not being able to interact with the people around you. And the amazing thing is that as an Israeli, when you grow in Israel, you hear Arabic and you are very used to be intimidated by this language. It can be scary to suddenly hear Arabic in the street. And there is something so powerful about learning the language and realize in a minute, in an instant, that like you're just surrounded with people. It's a complete change of point of view once you can communicate.
Yeah. And did you say you decided not to join the IDF?
Exactly. I'm a conscientious objector.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, I didn't realize that you were allowed to do that, but I guess as a conscientious objector, you can.
It's a very complicated process. And of course, most people don't manage to go through it. And for men, it's much more complicated than for women. But I'm one of the few that actually managed to get this status and get out of the army.
There's a situation portrayed in the film where it suggested that the IDF soldiers are kind of, I don't want to use the word preying on, but kind of see opportunities to take advantage of the women who are coming from other countries at a birthright. Did you think that was the case when you were there, when you were an IDF, when you were a birthright host?
Well, I was in the position of the soldiers. I was the Israeli coming to charm the tourists. So for sure, yes, it was like this. And I can say about this that I found it one of my most attractions to make a film about this world, because the birthright trips are quite officially, one of their goals is to help young Jewish men and women meet each other in order to avoid interreligious marriage abroad. Mm-hmm. So there is something about mingling and sexuality that is very present in the agenda of the trip. And this is like a myth that lives very strong in Israel, that all the soldiers in the IDF, they know that they really struggle to get to escorted a birthright trip because they know something will happen and they want to come back later to the base to tell everyone about it. And like this is part of the fun. And of course, the people coming from abroad have the same idea. So when you take a group of young people and everyone are coming with this idea that, okay, something exciting, something sexual can happen. So this atmosphere is very present. And for me, it was extremely amusing and human and fascinating to say, okay, inside of the structure that is very like respectful and Jewish heritage and identity and Holocaust and war, and inside of all of this, you know, actually we're just young people wanting to interact with each other. So for me, this was the first thing that caught me in the world. The same night when Natasha told me her story, and she told me about the soldiers, and then the same night I went back home and I wrote the first draft because I was so amazed, like by this clash of two worlds, you know, the heavy national elements with the young sexual atmosphere.
Did you always know, you said you wrote the first draft in a night, so did you always know it was going to be a short, or did you have an eye toward making it a feature?
I heard this story. I went and I wrote a short.
Yeah.
And very, very intuitively. And of course, it took much longer because we had to, in the end, it was not so easy to make this short, have a big group in the desert. We had to raise money. So of course, like always with cinema, it took time to make the short. And while I was doing the pre-production, I felt that actually my research was just going deeper because I started to cast, and the casting was a very, very large operation because I was looking for Russian young people, Russian speakers in Israel. So I was mainly auditioning non-actors. And this situation was actually like a huge collection of interviews and testimonies of Russian speakers immigrating to Israel. And I discovered a huge world in this process, and I allowed a lot of the stories that I met in the casting process to enter the script, and the characters that finally, like the actors that finally acted, they really brought themselves to the film. And at that moment, I realized, okay, I need to do a feature about this. I felt in the beginning, well, maybe I'm just getting to know this world, I will do a short. But then I started to work on the feature, and actually now I'm on my way to Paris to the Cine Fondation residence of Cannes to work on this script. So it's progressing.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
That's fantastic.
Yes, it's great.
So when you expand it out to an hour and a half, 2 hours, what are some of the aspects that you want to get into that you haven't been able to get into with the short?
Well, first of all, the characters. In the short, I feel that I have the opportunity just to give some presentation of a world. You know, I hardly go into stories, and now I have an opportunity to really go deep with a group of characters and to bring more human stories to the film. Second of all, it's going to be a road trip in Israel. So it's really an opportunity to cross Israel from north to south and to explore this land and this culture and identity from foreign eyes, which is amazing because in Israel, we don't really have road movies. The country is tiny, and Israelis, you know, I live in Tel Aviv, I want to go to the north, I go in the same day I go to sleep at home. It's just a couple of hours ride. I don't need to do a road trip. So there is something about the birthright trips that's, it's a very condensed trip that you can really cross the country and you can really create this mosaic of, first of all, the views and that are very, very diverse. And second of all, this cultural diversity that I was talking about before, that I really want to undermine this idea that we are such a united national state as we consider ourselves.
Yeah. It seems like you use the actual buses and maybe the actual quarters for the tours, or did you just rent your own buses and make them look like birthright buses?
No, we invented our own brand. We didn't
Oh.
we didn't use the birthright tags and buses, and it was important for me to invent an alternative organization, because in the end, I had a talk with Birthright after the film was starting to spread, and they were very worried, because they said, okay, if you do a film about birthright, we want you to be very accurate about everything. So I said, okay, it's not birthright. Of course, it's inspired by you completely. Thanks for the inspiration, but in the end, I want the artistic freedom. So no, I brand my own company. We called them in Russian The Way Home. So very similar, but different.
You fooled at least one viewer completely.
Oh, amazing!
I had-
It's the font. It's a very similar font. Yes.
You talked about some of the obstacles, especially non-actors, but what was the biggest obstacle that you faced in making the film? The biggest challenge that you overcame?
Honestly, it was shooting in the desert with a very small budget, and we were fighting nature completely. Yeah, because we had to shoot in the winter, because in the summer the sun is killing over there, and in the winter the days are very, very short, and the sun is moving super fast. So the entire day, and we had most of our scenes exterior, so we were just chasing the sun like crazy. And we had, less than maybe 8 hours of light to do. The wind was, playing with our equipment like it was, how do you say, sails, of boats. It was extremely challenging. All the actors would burn from the sun during the day and would freeze from the cold during night. Nature was. Yes, was a challenge, but we enjoyed a lot. We were all sleeping together in this Bedouin camp for a week, and we really created. I invited all the non-actors that were auditioning and didn't get main roles to come as extras. So we had this very natural group of young Russian speakers that immigrated recently to Israel, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh! Wow, you really created a community. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And you wrote the sunburn into the script at one point. I remember.
Well, this was from my personal experience as a white person living in the Middle East. Burning in the sun is part of my, daily challenge.
What are you doing next? I mean, you're making this into a feature.
Exactly.
Are you working on anything simultaneously, or is that seems like quite enough?
It's quite enough, but I am working on a series for the Israeli Broadcasting Corporation.
Excellent.
Yes.
Do you have any advice for filmmakers? Do you have any advice for people who want to make a film like you've made?
There are so many things to say, and I feel that I'm in the beginning of my way, so I search for advices more than yet give them. But I guess be bold, be honest, and go wild.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. It's a huge honor to get to talk with you, and again, I really love the film.
Thank you. It was my honor. Thanks.
Inbar Horesh, congratulations on Birthright.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.